You know, I kinda want some of those deodorants that were advertised at the start of the episode. I just want to smell how bad they are. Is that weird? I don't know, but I just thought they were really cool. And also, it's kind of crazy how the Critical Role's big enough where they're being sponsored by The Witcher and Netflix. Who would have thought? But let's jump into the episode. Firstly, Travis as Chetney is great. He was sorely missed, in my opinion. He just brings an energy and a liveliness that I personally love, and Chetney is a fantastic character. Everything that he says is basically comedic gold. I'm also kind of a fan of Chetney and Dorian kind of having an adversarial relationship. Obviously, it's not serious, at least I don't think it is, but it just gives a little bit of spice to every role-playing scene where Chetney is always trying to jab at Dorian, and Dorian, just the lovable person that he is, just tries to play around it. Yeah, I just love the dynamic. So the episode really picks up when the party gathers in the Spire by Fire and begin to interrogate Chetney. They do good Wilder, bad Wilder, and it's one of the funniest moments in this entire campaign so far for me. For me personally, I like it when a character goes outside of their comfort zone and does something that they might not be great at, and I think it just leads to better roleplay opportunities, and with a cast as talented as the Critical Role cast, it also leads to laughs and interesting moments. And while the actual quote-unquote interrogation doesn't go great, they still get a lot out of Chetney. Firstly, they learn that he's here in Jrusar looking for Gurge, and it's kind of a sensitive topic. He's not saying a lot about it at the beginning, but Gurge is this master craftsman that Chetney was hoping to get work from. Later on in the episode, we learn that Gurge has gotten himself into some trouble and may or may not be dead. We don't know, and I think that this could be because he's working against the Quorum, or maybe working for it, but I think it's more likely that he's against it because of things later on in this episode. I think based on description though, Gurge is probably connected to Broomstone, since Gurge is a master craftsman, and so it would make sense that someone working with Broomstone would bring him in, but maybe he learned something he wasn't supposed to, or he learned what the actual goal of the use of this Broomstone is and tried to go against it, and thus he ended up how he ended up. We don't know how he's ended up, but we know that it's bad. And so the party agrees to help Chetney, and they agree to help for toys, which is so wholesome. Like, they just want these little bits and baubles, and Orem says that they would have done it for free, but just willing to do things for toys, just, they're so wholesome. And I hope that nothing bad happens to this party, but we all know that it will. And I think all these early episodes and these moments where they're showing us just how good these characters are to their core. I think every character is genuinely good. Man, it's just gonna hurt worse when something actually happens to them. But for right now, I'm just enjoying their wholesomeness. And then after talking, Matt gives Liam an unprompted whisper, and then Liam turns around and talks to Imogen and says, "Hey, we're being followed by a Hubot Corsair." They try to communicate with the Corsair and tell him to come up, but the Corsair runs, and Chetney and Orem end up on a tailing mission to get him back, and Orem's "come on man" eventually brings this individual back, and we learn, to no one's shock, this is Cyrus, Dorian's brother. And then, oh boy, we get a ton of Wyvern Wind lore dropped on us like a sack of bricks. I'm going to run through it all pretty quickly. So Dorian is actually named Bronte. He's from the Silken Squall, which is a flying air ganassi tent city. The Wyvern Winds are basically royalty, and air ganassi from all over Exandria come to them and get advice, which is a little sketchy. Why are they the ones giving advice? Lore that will probably be dropped later on in this campaign, I'm sure. They both had strict parents, Cyrus and Bronte. So Bronte or Dorian, I'm going to continue saying Dorian because that's what he was called later on in the episode, and it's the name that he's chosen, I think the name that he's going to stick with. So Dorian leaves to go seek his fortune, and then Cyrus leaves after because they had a very sheltered life. And then we see that Dorian has a lot of negative emotions pent up towards Cyrus. Cyrus says that Dorian betrayed him, and then Dorian says that Cyrus was the betrayer. And really, they're all just wrapped up in, I believe it was like their father's idea of what they needed to be. And there's definitely some trauma there. It takes so much to get Dorian pissed off, and to see him, for one of the few times this campaign, come out and actually be angry really was an impactful moment for me. Then we get something big dropped on us. There is a bounty on Cyrus's head. Not a small bounty, a 20,000 gold bounty placed on Cyrus's head. Cyrus was working basically as a sellsword, and he was guarding a caravan when it was robbed. All the other guards were basically thieves, and Cyrus was set up to take the fall. And what was stolen? This massive golem. And I'm wondering, man, we've seen all of these creations and constructs. Could this be potentially Dancer's creation or come off of Dancer's work? And then we're tying fresh cut grass into this as well? Who knows? But the golem being stolen is definitely interesting. Why would they steal a golem? And why is it worth 20,000 gold? We'll find out later, but the leader of these thieves was named Nova, and the initials JH comes up. So let's start unpacking all this. Firstly, the caravan was ran by the Treshy family, which is connected to the wall mimic and probably a whole bunch of other things throughout the city, as they're obviously major players moving forward. We are definitely being set up for the party to come into conflict with the Treshys, and then we learn that Imogen saw a few initials on Ashton's letter, and Ashton's letter had a JH initial on it. And when Ashton is asked about it, he said that the story is complicated, and I'm asking myself, was Ashton a part of this in any way? Does he know anyone who's a part of this? Worse, was it connected to Advic? Is that the reason why Ashton is kind of worried when he's around them? Because you know what, it kind of makes sense. If Ashton was part of a group who was trying to collect all of Dancer's creations, maybe he got fresh cut grass and maybe, I don't know, stepped away from the nobodies, and the nobodies now, maybe with a new leader, Nova, are trying to get the rest of Dancer's creations. Who knows? But I think that this stone golem is definitely connected to fresh cut grass and Dancer in some way. It feels like a missed opportunity narratively not to. So there's definitely a huge conspiracy going on, and then the conspiracy rams up another level, as the party then overhears a small conversation by the Spire by Fire as something is being posted on basically the job board. The posting talks about Paragon's Call, which is a well-known mercenary group. They made their name in the war, and they are known for doing whatever it takes to get the job done. And they are essentially saying, hey, let us go take care of the Hubot Corsairs because they're running amok in the city. Obviously, we as the audience and the players know this is not the case. So who are they connected to? Why are they doing this? And is this a power grab in the city? The Corsairs are definitely trying to expose the Quorum, so I would guess that the Paragon's Call are being hired by them and are then trying to just take out the Corsairs. So if I had to guess, they are working for the Quorum, because why else would they be going after the Corsairs unless, my guess is also that maybe potentially one of the leaders of Paragon's Call could be part of the Quorum as well, but who knows. There is also a small chance that they were hired by the Ivory Syndicate, but I'm less confident in that theory. But after the healthy dose of political intrigue is dropped on the party, they decide to go find Gurge and help out Chetney. And Chetney shows his usefulness now on missions, because as a dedicated rogue, I think he fills a spot in the party that's desperately needed, because he can do all the roguish activities that you need. He can tail someone, he can pick a door, he has really high saving throws in those things that he has expertise as. Chetney just fits into this group so well. And honestly, even after this one session, I think that he's becoming one of my favorite characters. So, Chetney pops the lock to Gurge's office, and then they find that it is completely trashed. Furniture is turned over and partially destroyed to Chetney's dismay. They also find these large claw marks, which are bigger than a Shade Creeper's claws, but smaller than a Direwolf's claws. And also, this scene has been intentionally cleared, and we'll talk about that later when we get to the Wardens at the end of this episode. Sirach, the landowner, eventually appears and is generally kind of a nuisance. I did not like their character at all, but I think that was the point. And we learned from them that there have been incidents like direwolf attacks and explosions all over the city. And I'm wondering, is this in an attempt to have the faith in the Wardens maybe being undermined so that they can bring in Paragon's Call to be like this new policing force? I don't know, but the political intrigue wheel starts turning and the party realizes they need to go asking questions because why are direwolves just showing up in the middle of a Jrusarian street? So they get on it and they begin asking questions and they head to a factory and talk to 2 wardens, and these wardens lie to the party, we realize, as fresh cut grass comes in clutch and reads their minds, learning that they need to go talk to their boss about something. And so they do. And Fern pursues alone. And at this very moment, I was like, oh no, because splitting the party, never great, especially if you're going on a stealth mission, because these stealth missions, don't get me wrong, as a DM, I've seen players split off from the party on solo stealth missions, and it has gone incredibly well. But then the fall that can potentially happen is severe. So honestly, I was white-knuckling the entire time Fern was sneaking through this factory, tailing the wardens as a rat. And then, as the 2 wardens engage with their boss, we learn that they are engaging in a massive cover-up operation. They have Gurge alive somewhere, but they are probably going to kill him and are trying to shut down any investigation into Gurge. And almost certainly they are the one who tried to clean up the blood in the apartment that Gurge owned, or maybe not apartment, but office, and they didn't do it very well, which leaves me a little bit suspicious, but I kind of attribute that to Dungeon Master Fiat, where Matt needs to give clues that the party can find, and if the wardens are too competent, then it just becomes impossible, and it stops becoming a fun game, and then it's just this realistic simulator. So I'm completely fine if they just didn't do a good job cleaning up the blood. But this kind of leads me to my next question. Who are the wardens working for? Have they been bought by someone? Are they working for the Treshies? Are they working for the Quorum? Are they working for the Ivory Syndicate? Are they working for an organization that we don't even know yet, that's potentially affiliated with Duggar and his aberrant dealings? Look, without a doubt, the political powers in Jrusar are circling around something. There is something that everyone is after or covering up, and it's not just Broomstone. Maybe it's a goal, a secret, an objective. There is something at the heart of all of this, and honestly, I am so excited. It's one of my personal favorite tropes and also just ways of running D&D, where at the center of all of these plot lines there is this one thing, and as we see all the disparate pieces come together, we have revelation after revelation and slowly begin to uncover this gigantic mystery, because I think that Critical Role is at its best when it's firing on all these cylinders, when the players are uncovering mystery. And honestly, Matt is doing an incredible job right now setting everything up with this huge mystery. He's setting everything up, giving us tons of red herrings and clues, and it all just feels like the tension is rising, like we are going through this new narrative arc, and man, I am excited to see what the party finds. Look, I've been saying it, but Matt is just getting better and better as a DM, and it's just amazing to watch. I don't know, I just feel like this campaign is definitely something special. I think that all the characters are gelling together so well, the combats are exemplary, and Matt's story is, right now, so well thought out, at least from an outside perspective, and he's just fine-tuning his craft. And then, after Fern learns all this information, we get all of this narrative weight essentially dropped on us. Fern, as a rat, gets stepped on and takes 1 point of damage, and then boop, is back to being regular Fern, and it's a 3v1 in a tight space against 3 wardens, one of which is like a captain or lieutenant or someone. Now, Ashley says she has a plan, but I'm still nervous because it doesn't look good, and the cliffhanger that we were given, and now we have a few weeks to wait until we get the next episode when they come back, and I'm ready for it. But 3 questions heading into next session. 1, what does Gurge know and why is he in trouble? 2, who are the Paragons working for? And 3, how is Fern going to get out of this? What's Ashley's plan? I have no idea. No one has any idea. But you know what? Despite my nervousness, I believe in Ashley and Fern that they can get out of this somehow. Now, if you need any more content to hold you over during this Critical Role hiatus, check out one of these two videos right here. They're two of my favorites. And thank you for entering the dungeon.